Hey, how's it going? It's been a minute. Test, test, test. Yeah, you should be able to hear me. All right, so late night. Uh, Not expecting a lot of people to jump on, but I tested out this painting setup the other day, and that was on my personal channel, unlisted. And now, just gonna test it here on the channel and wait for it to mess up. um, so yeah, just waiting, and we're gonna see how this goes. I'm going to go ahead and paint. I'll probably paint these little rock walls. A good start for the night. Only going to stream for a few hours, and hopefully it's a relaxing time. Gotta find my paint. Hey Jacob, how you doing? Got a late night stream on my end. Did some tests and trying to get this set up to work since my PC is no longer here, that corridor, so I can work from home and just parsec into my computer. I'm running off a laptop, and I had to make sure all this stuff can work with that. So that's been a minute. So, yeah. Hopefully I can get to painting more often on stream. What time is it for you, Jacob? PM. Central Europe or East Europe? Or am I fucking losing my mind? Southeast Asia. Yeah, it's even further. That's dope. Yeah, my mom's in Germany right now, so I'm used to kinda thinking in time zones. So I'm not that good. I'm definitely not that good. Is this my full-time job now? It is not. Still working at Corridor, working on Son of a Dungeon, which is great. It's exhausting doing both channels, and it takes time to do both well. But I am definitely learning what it takes to make good D&D content very quickly. Almost faster than I could actually make quality changes. I wish this could be my full-time job, but even if I could afford this to be my full-time job, I don't know if I would do that. I'm not sure. I would rather spend that money from this channel on building out a team than just supplying a full-time job. I'd be the last person. Didn't I leave Corridor? I did. And then I got a phone call and they wanted my help producing their website content. And I helped make... What was the filmmaking series? We did like a few episodes on that. Functional Filmmakers. We did that. And then Son of a Dungeon. And now we're in post-production of Son of a Dungeon 2. And I am balancing the schedule on this channel somehow and working at Corridor. Dude, Jacob, a quiet house, and just enjoying a nice, relaxing stream. I'm claiming myself that this is a relaxing stream. Excuse me, I just had dinner. That sounds very nice. I've seen 5 leagues from the borderland. No, I have not. Thank you. Son of a Dungeon takes a lot of work. Season 1, I got about 4 hours of sleep a night. Season 2, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep since I have editors to help me. And Season 2 is actually moving along much faster than Season 1, which is nice. Well, I hope season 2 looks enticing enough for you to want to check it out. Dude, I'm glad you like Son of a Dungeon. I put a lot of work into it. It's a lot of fun to make. Oh, that's interesting. 5 leagues. I'll look it up. Yeah, I feel that. I support College Humor on their website, Dropout. When I first started doing it, I think I canceled off and on because I couldn't afford the subscription, even though the subscription's like a cup of coffee a month, you know? But I feel you. Like at times, like, nah, you gotta check your accounts and you're like, well, this has gotta go. I think in due time, with what we're doing at Corridor for the website, it's going to be absolutely worth the money, and I think there'll be a way to find that extra penny to get the subscription when like a lot more is happening. Oh, that's awesome, Jacob. Which videos inspired you to really start playing? Is it the games themselves, or was it the more educational talking head, me rambling about ideas? Fern, I have watched Game of Thrones, and I've seen the trailer. Yeah, Jacob, that's one of the reasons I love it. It's when you think about it in a game, not like filmmaking and storytelling, the game side that I really love is I get to play with my friends, number one, or just play with a group of people in general and bond over this ridiculous moment that we're having. And then the fact that it's flexible. Like, no, instead we want to go this way, or I do this instead, and what does that lead to? I find that stuff so much fun. Really hard to do on camera. Because you gotta memorize everything. Yeah, I'm putting some grays on this. This is kind of the black it started out. Not that big of a difference yet. The show? Is Game of Thrones any good? I think so. Freaking looks amazing. The lighting and shooting style in the earlier seasons is very classic TV. The later seasons, the cinematography is absolutely beautiful. It's way less TV, and they're trying to go for more of like medieval natural look, which is ballsy. I do think there's a particular episode that could be a little bit brighter in scenes. Story-wise, I think outside of the pilot, because I'm not a fan of modern pilots, early seasons are the most like draw you in, and then the later seasons do feel rushed a lot, but once you get to those later seasons, you're having so much fun and you're having such a good time. Like, screw it. Having a Game of Thrones night. Dude, Fern, that sounds like a classic D&D. Where you got your characters and they start in a tavern and they start cussing out everybody and just like going full chaos. Keeping track of everybody as a DM, I work really hard to be able to do. I try to hear everyone. I try to make sure if someone has a question, I'm willing to pause the game to make sure that the question, if it's not like mechanically relevant, like what spell is that? Roll a die. But like if someone's confused, try to pause the game to make sure they're keeping up. But with all the chaos happening all the time, I do prefer to be a little bit more animated with my hand gestures, like you, so that the players can see me working. And then you just gotta reel them in with a good hook. Honestly, like, you gotta bait them. Showing, being more jesterful, that's not a word. More jesting. No. Being more, having more hand gestures, being more animatic helps. What also helps is hooking them with something that you believe all of them are down for. If they don't take the bait, what else could happen? You know? Okay, if this is the hook to the thing that you've spent time preparing, don't rush that. Like, you gotta take off that plane when you gotta take off that plane, and you gotta make sure that you land it generally in the way you're hoping it lands. It's going to change a little bit on the journey, but if you can introduce a new element that can propel them out of the tavern or further into the tavern or into a direction that you want them to kind of go, it will break them free from that moment and kind of be like looking for your hook again. Oh, thank you, Select. Yeah, exactly. If they're looking for a fight, throw a fight. If you have D&D Beyond, open up an app. You know what? No, don't even have D&D Beyond. I gotta make a video about my minions and my bosses, my baddies, because I've been reworking them based off Elden Ring. Really great. If you have I now DM with a laptop. so I have all my digital notes available instantly. But if you have access to just your notes on Insta bad guys that you can just toss in and really, like, oh, there's 3 NPCs in this room, I'm gonna make those Insta bad guys, I'm gonna start a tavern fight, and you got their stats ready to go. Ooh, you can even, let's say the tavern fight happens, you're not doing lethal damage, and you make that clear to the players that when they land a punch, when your NPCs land a punch on your players, you take non-lethal damage, which means if you get to 0 HP, you don't die, you just fall unconscious. Once the fight's over, have that NPC that you're fighting, like, compliment them on their fighting, and buy some beer for everybody, you know, like that post-fight cheer. And then now you have an NPC at the table with them. So now you can talk to the players through a character. Now you can introduce that hook that you want. Or at least, if they're definitely not interested in your hook, you can have that NPC talk to them and get to know them and smell out a new idea based off their desires as players and characters. Actually, as the DM, I wouldn't necessarily call me personally, I wouldn't call myself the storyteller. You're definitely a puppet master. That's what they should call it, not a dungeon master. But I see it more as like a director of a live play. Like you're the director and the players are the cast. And what I experienced like on Son of a Dungeon is when Sam is a DM, he's really the director of the actors. And what that kind of another analogy to include me as an extension is he's the captain of the team. He's leading the team to the end zone to score the points. I'm the captain on the sideline. I can call timeout. We take a break. I go up to the captain, rework the play, and be like, yo, you remember doing this? Don't forget that. Okay, cool. And I bounce, keep going. But there's a lot of analogies to it. I don't personally like being the storyteller. I think you're definitely the head writer in the writer's room. Arctic Tiger Tango. Tango, you're a good dude. Doesn't matter what gender you are, you're a good dude. Let me know if you don't hear me, or if something goes up with the mic, because I'm not listening to my own voice. I'm only listening to the music that you hear. Okay, so I put gray on the walls. Leather brown. Desert yellow. They help with introducing a character mid-story. It seems very unoriginal when I do it. Like, they help the players in combat, or a certain side character that becomes an actual main character. I kind of have done this. I just made my NPC show up. They were on their own quest to figure out some other shit, and they just bumped in and they dealt with the problem at hand together, and then they were going the same direction. My players never asked me what mission they were on. I think think eventually asked what they were doing out there, and it was just like, oh, we were looking up on X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z was just the things that the players did in the previous town. Weird angled stand. Standing crooked like a weird person. All right, November. Have a good night. I'm so happy I got this streaming setup to work. It was glitching out in so many other ways when I was doing my early tests. Oh, this is good. Thank you very much. I put a lot of work into my work. Sometimes too much. So, a good feeling when people enjoy the work. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It is hard lately to justify painting as much as I want until, you know, hyperfocus kicks in and then you're like but you know, having my hope is that I can do this stream weekly. Then I'll hang out more often. You guys can tell me how I'm messing up my painting and what's in the news. And complain that my work isn't out yet, such as Son of a Dungeon or the next season of Refuge. Warhammer, I think the only reason I don't get into Warhammer is just the genre doesn't hook me. Either the genre or the world building doesn't hook me. The figs look beautiful, but I don't have the time to just paint figs that I'm not going to use. Am I doing YouTube full time? No, I want to, but I got a long way till then. Well, technically I'm doing YouTube full time. Well, no, Son of a Dungeon isn't on YouTube. I'm doing Son of a Dungeon and Fables. I am doing D&D full time. That's a win. That's a straight up win. Good afternoon. Hey, that travel session video, I get mixed reviews on that video, and I do have an update on travel. Because I tried out that system more, and I worked out the flaws, and I just tried to simplify it more and more and more. I couldn't figure out, there's a big hiccup in it. It relied too much thinking on the players. Don't know why, but it always kept happening. So I took a pause and I figured out a new lock picking mechanic, which my rogue loves. Absolutely loves. It makes him feel less OP, but at the same time, he feels like only he can do it. And I applied that mechanic to travel, and I have a new traveling system. So I was wondering if I should do a video on that. You want me to do a video on that? Let me know. The mic is like just outside of my mouth because I'm like leaning. I got a loud rolly chair now. Do I get paid for this? No. All the money that this channel can make, which is not a lot, goes right away to buying more minis. And it was going to fixing up all these camera stands with lights. But now it's just going to minis, so that way I can make more shows. And then I put into this channel like, what's the difference? I think I put in about 10 times more per month than what the channel makes. And the only way I can do that is, well, I'm not even painting on camera. Classic me. I'll zoom out. Only way I can do that is by working a corridor. Yeah, I've heard Warhammer's lore is like out of this world. Get it? Do I enjoy this? Yeah. Love it. The only thing that does not bring me joy is setting up the table every time. Because I live in such a small space. Literally the only thing that doesn't bring me joy. I am trying to save up though, so that way I can put in a second computer for an assistant editor to parsec into. And then really see this channel move a little bit faster, hopefully. Because it is moving a bit slow, but I'm also, you know, putting everything together. So it's gonna take time. Where do they dry without the table? I think I misspoke. I'm talking about the table that we played D&D on. Technically 3 tables. I don't have the space for a huge table. And they're all foldable. So I gotta put the tables away. And now I have all the lights and cameras on wheels. So that helps. Look at that setup. If I could get just a little bit bigger space, I could have everything set up all the time. That would save me 4 hours every game day. Yeah, this table is just like a cabinet. I literally cannot fit my feet underneath. I'm sitting sideways. Just twisting my back. Music is so good. I don't have the link to the music in the description during the stream, but after the stream I'm gonna put it in. It's such a weird grip. Like I'm holding the mini like this. Here, why can't you see me paint? Finished ones, finished ones over here, not finished over there. I would like a better painting table though. Someday. Random thought. You somehow got hit many times? What? That sounds wacky. Get it? Do you get it? Do I get disappointed as a DM when my players don't fully explore something? The first couple times I was, because I wanted to show off, and that was a big ego thing that I put into check. Because if they don't, I'll just move it, use it another time. Now I'm not. But also now I'm getting better at making sure my ideas of the dungeons or ideas for the dungeons are crucial for exploring the dungeon completely. If I make a dungeon that is very sprawled out and pretty big, I would start moving to theater of the mind and really treat it like a city. Treat it like how I run a city, which is organizing districts in a very rough, organized grid, and then make up stuff on my way through based off what I know would be in there versus what is in there. The wall city in Dubai? No. They're building a city with just a wall around it, like classic times. Often. How do I decide to add an event such as a fight, puzzle, or dungeon to my campaign? Well, for my off-camera game, because it takes a minute to play, and we're not really playing for camera, so the story is not as high as a priority as as the fun. I would say when you're doing actual play, you know, they're the fun of the game and the story you're telling are always competing for first and second place. I'd say actual plays, story is taking first place, and then home games, fun it should be taking first place. So I always think about what do my players want to do. You know, we haven't played in 3 weeks. I'm not going to start off with a lore dump or a puzzle. I'm going to try to get straight into some combat because they're itching to play Dungeons and Dragons and fight some monsters. So even if it's a small fight, it's a good hook to open up the game. And depending on the situation, it's like, how do I introduce a fight? Well, they're walking through the woods, and they're at they find themselves hiding out from the rain in a ruined tower. Okay, and we'll call the game there since, hey, it's getting late. We gotta get home. So they're in a ruined tower. I gotta think about. There's 2 ways to think about this. Either you think about the lore, what would be at that tower, or second, what can be at that tower. So that's kind of how I approach that. Puzzles, still working on my puzzles. I try to make my puzzles part of the dungeon, so they're kind of one and the same. Dungeons, exploring a dungeon, I try to make sure there's an opportunity to do it whenever possible, even if the dungeon is a trap. And if they don't explore it fully, you know, they know it's there and they might come back. Cool. If they find it and start exploring it and leave to come back later, I can't reuse it and put it somewhere else. I have to come up with a new idea for another thing. Because obviously I don't have to, but it'll just confuse me what is in that spot. Because I have a map of the continent or the region which the players have access to, but I have it in my head. My brain members like putting a flagpole into a spot of the map and going, hey, that dungeon is there. So that's kind of how I remember that. What's my favorite video game? Frostpunk. Frostpunk is easily one of my top favorite video games. Once a year I play it, and I play it for nearly 48 hours straight. Like, I play it till sunrise, go to sleep for 2 hours, get up, play some more, just destroy my mental health and physical health and all my routines. I'm looking forward to the second one. I think it was, well, last year, so previous Christmas holiday, I finally beat the main campaign. I've been doing that for years. Couldn't get past, because it's, I could get further. I'll try to keep going. And it's like, I always get so close to beating winter. It's like, I could do it, but I can't because you're so tired you can't think fast enough anymore. Such a good game. have more yellow. Brandon, ever want to play a modern or futuristic game / world? Talking about in ooh, there's stuff. Talking about in Dungeons and Dragons or like tabletop. Yeah, you have to nail the first 5 choices in that game perfectly to have even decent odds of winning. Yeah, so I have thought about a futuristic D&D game. When we played Alien, I was like, oh, this is scratching a really good itch. And then I backed the Kickstarter for Blade Runner, which is another futuristic one. I think I'm more attracted to sci-fi horror than sci-fi fantasy. And I have thought about a way to do, not a way, but like a game that includes modern times with D&D. Because eventually I'm going to be DMing on this channel too, and I gotta think about a way to make my game different than Fables of Refuge, let alone all the other games out there. You know, gotta have interesting ideas to make good content. I think I have something. It just needs now time to flesh out, time to make, and unique minis. I knew that mic would finally get in the shot. My hand is over here. So this. With that, that's a good angle. Treasure Planet. Yeah, that's kind of like the Spelljammer vibe, right? Not 100% sold on Spelljammer as like a default setting. I think it's a great setting if you have a reason to be exploring space. Yeah. It's tough. Because I'm so neck deep in getting the minis for high fantasy that it's like, I thought about it the other day, if I start thinking about another genre, I have to get those minis too. Which I kind of started doing with the Alien one. And the Star Wars game, which is not out yet. I don't have time to edit it right now. I'll probably just push that for a bit. Dude, fleshing out a city is exhausting. So you get through it, and it's easy to survive, and as the DM, you'll get through it. Recommendation for city. I made a stream about this. I think I should just make a video about how I prepared a city as like my first city ever, and it's like as a fairly new DM. You know, I haven't been DMing more than like a year or so. And I over prepared for sure. There's some hooks that my players kind of took, and some hooks that they just straight up ignored, and it just became texture. I think the number one thing you can do to make a city feel like a city, toll taxes. Number one thing that really makes you feel like you're not exploring a dungeon anymore. So, oh, you're crossing the bridge? Pay the toll. A couple copper. Oh, you're going through the main gate? That's a silver each. Or you're going to the rich district? Another silver. It's just like, okay, guys, where are we going? And then your player, you do it enough times, and your players start to go, okay, where are we going? Where should we go? Because you're going to have to pay to go there, even though they have the money. You constantly reinforcing that they're paying taxes just to move around the city gets to them. Also, a city is like a dungeon that every room or every shop or something should offer a service or clues or secrets to an adventure idea that is floating around. You can have a couple small ones and one big one, or just one big one. I found my players found that my players didn't necessarily know that they were going to have a shopping episode. But I knew that at the end of this session, because I had already started it, set it up at the top of the session, that they need to meet up with a noble to have dinner. So they have to figure out what they're going to do for the session to fill the time. And some of them went shopping. I encouraged the shopping because, like, guys, I don't know if you're going to have another chance to stock up, but like, some of them went shopping. Some of them went to get stuff for their backstory. Some of them shopping, backstory, and just trying to learn more about that noble. I think the hardest part about preparing an event like a dungeon or a fight or just a quest is knowing if your players are going to want it, or at least enough of your players are going to want it to encourage the rest to be like, yo, we should go on this adventure. That's kind of the hardest one, because if you have good players, they'll smell that you're putting down a hook for them to grab, and out of courtesy they might just take it, right? Because hey, if we go on this quest, we have something to do, and then we can make it our own thing as we go along. But it feels really good when you can just lure them into something that they want to do. And that just, outside of just asking them, hey guys, what do you want to do? It kind of breaks a little bit of the illusion of like the real world vibe. The best thing to do is get them into a situation where they're discussing what they want to do in front of you, and they forget you're listening. What up, Moist? Do you choose place in time or environment first? Can you be more specific with that question in the context of what? The hook or what? For me, that just might be too ambitious for me. At least too ambitious for me to do alone. Again, I'm painting all the way over here. I have the camera there. You like draw a circle for myself. I choose place, time, or environment first. I'm trying to think, are you asking about making adventures or quests or hooks? I'm just gonna assume that's it. Time. I've only thought about time specifically once. I do track time. I even have a little paper mache clock that I can spin. That way I can show the players what time of day it is. Time matters when other magical forces are affected by it. That's really it. Place? I do think about place. Where is X thing, right? Do think about that a lot. Or where is X thing taking place? Do think about that. the environment, like the terrain. I don't I not that I don't think about the terrain. It's or the environment. It's my players are in a certain location on the map that is currently they finished winter, so it's essentially like late spring now. So there isn't much extra terrain around. They can go into the forest and I can think about that stuff. Or if they go to the swamps, I can start thinking about that. And I do have encounter tables per terrain, which I've shown on the stream once or twice, but I've also simplified that to really feel a lot more deadly. Complete worlds or regions of the world you created. Time and evolution or areas less. Okay, that's a deep question, and I have an answer for that. First off, I just started playing. I had a town. I had the starter kit. So I started in Fandalin, or whatever it's pronounced. I pronounce it Fandalin. I just started with that, and I started with a basic quest, just to help the game start. And then my world building primarily started from what do I know about the players. If I don't have a cleric, I don't need to worry about building a pantheon. But I do have a cleric. So I need to worry about building a pantheon. The way that was best for my brain, and I don't recommend this for everyone because I do think it's a little unnecessary, but it just helped me organize stuff, was I wrote out a timeline. You know, like Age of Dark Sky, Age of Thunders and Storm. I actually want to read some. I'll read some to you. But starting from the players is the best start, and then organizing, and then trying to make sure it fits for them. And then I started building the timeline because when they were exploring, they started asking me, how old is this? Or what does this look like and stuff? And I didn't have good enough answers that I wasn't satisfied with. So I started working on some lore so I could answer questions better. And I don't hide my lore unless I know that society would have forgotten this. But I still have it. So you might have something that I'm down to give you. So it's just gonna take a minute or so. Let's see, I have the Primordial Age, total of 100,000 years. The chapters in that are the Gnossian Elements, Primordial Titans, Colossal Overlords. I have the Age of War and Thunder, a total of 30,000 years. We have Jotunheim Timeline, Utgard, Orcs of Bane, Draconic Timeline, Elementals after Utgard, the First Druids, the Witness, and then on to another age of Time of Dark Skies. I don't know if it's 30,000 years. I have it written down. I might tighten that up a bit. Doesn't feel right. And that's all imaginary in my mind. Age of the First Dawn. The chapters in that is the First Dawn. Pretty simple. Genie's Curse. Magic's Ignorance. then you have the Desolation, which took 100 years. Then I have the Second Dawn. And then I have Third Dawn. I'm not sure if I want a second and third or just stay in the second. Still trying to figure that out. Wait, I have notes. I am in the Third Dawn. Okay, so my current game takes place in the Third Dawn. And I over-exaggerated how many years each timeline is, you know, like 30,000. That's absurd. But I have elves in there. So 30 before man, elves, you know, walking around for 1,000 years of a lifespan, 30,000 years is nothing to them. So yeah, then from there, you know, I'm not the Jotunheim part of War and Thunder, right? That covers a lot of the giants' history and the giant pantheon, or at least the story of the giant pantheon. And I did that because I wanted to connect goblins, orcs, and I kept coming up with different reasons how orcs and goblins existed, and I wanted them to be essentially the same thing but just different, right? Like, it's just equivalent to like a halfling to a human. That's what my mind was. Like, a goblin is to an orc, like a halfling is to a human. And that connected me from orcs to half giants to giants. And then I was like, oh, how did giants become orcs? And how did then orcs become goblins? And how did that path turn out? And just answering that question, I created an age of time. And I asked that question because one of my players, the goblin. And I wanted to know what, and her backstory is orcs attacked. Cool. I need to know more about this in the lore so I can give you a satisfying result for your tragic backstory. To present time. The closest thing I have at the moment to present the timeline are relics. And then really good history rolls. They can also go to libraries and look up certain information. They can ask their deities and stuff. What else? When they go to ruins, I explain, hey, what are these ruins over here? For example, in my game, elves don't exist. They're extinct. Half-elves still exist. So, odds are, if you go to a set of ruins near the mountains, it's going to be elves. Elven ruins. And my goblin player didn't know that, even though in their backstory they stayed at some ruins. And in the most recent dungeon, they found a giant statue with the marking of the moon god. And the stonework, I told her, that resembles the ruins that you stayed in. in your backstory. And I said it looks perfect. It looks like it was made by perfect hands, perfect sculptures, almost magical. And man, that was a high roll too. I think I even said it looks elvish or elven. Yeah, it's really about starting with your players. You don't need to make anything that is removed from the party at hand. That way you're not wasting time. If you find ways to bridge things like I did with giants, half giants, trolls, ogres, orcs, and goblins, right? I got to tie those all in. Super satisfying because I got a couple more birds with one stone. Have you ever played a Dave type player? Someone who has no tragic backstory, no strong motivation to adventure. They grew up well, and their parents are fine. Oh, you mean a hobbit? Sounds like a hobbit. Somebody who's down to just chill. I have not played that character yet. I have thought about that character though. Even though they don't have any reason to go on an adventure, they need a reason to be part of the party, and I haven't figured that the right move for that yet. Everyone needs a Dave. Professor, if you're writing a new language for your story, here's a cheat. I did the, for example, I told my goblin player, hey, you know goblin and technically orc. You can write them both down. The difference between the two is no different than American English and British English. So you just want to get a few things mixed up by the slang and the accent. Draconic, for example, I changed Draconic a lot. Draconic can sound like common, orc. It can sound like anything you think it could sound like. Draconic is not the words, not the language, but how you speak the language. A good example is the Hobbit movie or book. Don't know why the movie came first in my mind. When Bilbo speaks to Smaug and how he has to bow to him, speak to him like he's better, feed the ego, but also don't be petty, don't be begging. Like, you also have to be prideful and strong, but you have to show envy to the dragon, right? My idea is that's how you speak Draconic. It's how you speak to another person, not a different language. Because dragons are magical. They can speak any language they ever want. Let's be honest. Nothing is stopping a dragon from speaking every language. Especially an ancient dragon. If I speak this way, do I sound as clear as when I speak this way? let me know. Milo? Dude, I'd love to play Milo again. But I also think Milo's story is kind of over, you know? Probably pull out Milo for like a one-shot. Probably not a big adventure. I'm a proponent that stories need to have an ending. Because if it doesn't end, then you can't just try something new again. Definitely a one-shot with Milo would be a lot of fun. The number one thing I'm upset about my roleplay as Milo, and this is my own roleplay, is me cursing. I have a bit of a potty mouth. I'm working on it. Milo should not have a potty mouth. And I wish I would say the word cuss like in Fantastical Mr. Fox. But I feel like that's so Milo. He's like, what the cuss is going on around here? What the cuss is that? You cusser? You mother cusser. What the cuss? Oh, cuss this? Like, that feels Milo. In my heart, that is Milo. And that's the number one regret. But I'm okay with it. Milo is amazing. This is enough yellow. Oh, that's interesting, Professor Skeletal. That's a good move too. Whenever they cuss, just make up a deity right there. Figure it out later. I think this is good. As I continue painting. My butt. Okay, that's working. I'll put pure red. Meant for a desert wall. some deep blue on this. A Moongate wall? I mean this one? Oh, my purple light died. Now I know that I have to plug that in. I used to have the top. I think I threw the top away. It was in a mess of me cleaning. And now it's just ruins, which is fine by me. Could just middle of the campaign. That's really underexposed. Better. How long do I plan on streaming for? Not that much longer. Probably for another 15-ish minutes or so. Put some blue on those rocks. Gotta love having rocks. Go back to this one. Am I speaking too quiet? When I speak like this, am I too quiet when I speak this way? Let me know, because I have a noise gate. Are there going to be more streams? Absolutely. As long as the system doesn't wrap out on me. Yes. So the plan is to stream once a week, unless I'm completely unavailable entirely. I'm thinking Mondays, starting this coming Monday. And I'm thinking midday, my time, so that's Pacific. Looking at the channel, YouTube shows when most of the viewers of the channel are on YouTube. Yeah, being tracked. We get to see that data. So Monday midday seems like when a good number of subscribers and viewers are available to watch YouTube. So streaming for a couple hours on a Monday seems like a smart move. Oh, thank you. I like having a chill time when I paint. Great. Thank you, Mormy. That helps me a lot. The blue really goes a long way. Really like it. Anton, yeah, so I'll have a link to the music when this is done streaming. I forgot to put them in the description for the stream. A lot of brown on this one. Yeah, this entire soundtrack is made by a Turkish indie gaming company that came out with a Turkish lore influenced D&D expansion. I'll put the link to their store because their books are beautiful. And they have maps, they have this music if you want to play this music for your games. It's great. I'm definitely taking their stuff and putting into my world, which I do quite often. When I find good books made by people from different perspectives, I try to use as foundations to expand the world that I'm building. So that way it's not entirely my idea. Singular idea. Right here's this. Oh, thank you. I'm happy I fell in love with this. As a kid, I used to paint a lot. So painting minis is really rewarding. And then playing D&D Kind of just expands that experience. And then I love D&D for a whole bunch of other reasons. Thank you very much. Don't you forget about me. Oh, whoa. That's all of the song I know. Yeah, I mean, Brandon, the world building aspect of my world. I've taken towns from the main Faerun, renamed them. They're my towns now. But that allows me to use books based off those towns as a foundation to when my players show up there. So I don't have to make up everything from scratch. I can just remix and DJ things what I want. This region is more of the classic Faerun. This region is some of the darker books that come out, plus from Cobalt Press. The south is entirely Cobalt Press. The east is... Ugh, I got paint on me. But you know what I'm saying. The tough part is building the map. So on essentially my first render of my map, and it kind of just looks like Europe and Africa, which I'm fine with for a home game, because I can go, you guys are in Africa. Oop. But if I was to stream it, I have to get to the second version of that map, which is a lot more fantastical looking, as I would put it. Oh yeah, I have... I have this book as you can also zoom out. I have this book, an indie book, pretty great. Let me try to remember. This is kind of wrap up the stream. But the Islands of Sinuna, not entirely sure that's the right way to pronounce it, but that's how I'm saying it. I got this because Filipino. Okay, so all the creatives that made this book all have Filipino heritage, whether they're half, whether they're full immigrant or first generation. They all worked on this book to bring Filipino lores and mythos, and not just ones that came after colonization, but mostly from pre-colonization, and try to find a way to get that lore into Dungeons and Dragons, and I got this book for that. And I've read the whole book, but I haven't really applied much of it to my world building because it doesn't connect to any of my players yet. But you know, it's essentially really good for islanders, for my thinking is Genasi, to fit in my world. But you can also just play that whole book. Like, there's such a good set of adventures, world building, towns, fishing and hunting and gathering systems, sailing. Wonderful. So that's kind of how I go about world building, on top of everything else I've said in this stream. Any of my minis end up being used in Son of a Dungeon? Yes. Season 1, not so many. Season 2, probably the biggest scene in the season. My minis are in there. That's supposed to be yellow. There we go. That looks good. I think that looks nice for now. It's going to get a lot more dirtied up, but I'll work on these another time. Monday will be another streaming day, assuming everything on the technical side goes well. And I'm probably going to focus more, not on these, shaking the camera too much, probably going to focus more on a couple buildings that I have, and I want to paint the whole building, plus some little guys right here. I'll focus on that on Monday. And then if I feel like it, I might stream a second time next week. Maybe. We'll see how it goes. And the silence of me reading comments off my phone begins as my eyes scroll left and right, up and down the screen. I see names that I cannot pronounce, names that I don't know if I should say out loud. But this is the end of the stream, my friends. I am tired. If you're just tuning into the stream, I'm sorry. I'm shutting it down. I'll start streaming again Monday, midday, my time, which is California Pacific Standard Time. I'm thinking around noon. No guarantees exactly at noon, but yeah. That's what I'm feeling. I'm gonna go to bed. All of you have a wonderful night, wonderful morning, evening, whatever it is to you. I hope it's wonderful. And that's what I say adieu. I don't have an off button over here. I have to literally leave.